Okay, this tutorial is just going to talk you through how to create watercolour text effects in Photoshop, so something a little bit like what we've got on the example here. So the first thing you need to do is open up a new document. We're going to set it to 540 by 300 pixels, and then just pop the resolution down for now, just for the example piece, down to 72 pixels per inch, and click OK. The first thing you need to do is just unlock the background layer. So if you just double click on this here, you get a little option to come up here, and we can just quickly retitle it background. And then you need to open up the layer styles. So I do this by holding down Command and right clicking on this bit here. Once you've got the window open, if you go into the pattern overlay options, and you need to open up the artist style palette. That's what I've already got open up here. Once you've found that, if you open it up, if you sort of hover over the different styles, you can select them and you can see them going onto the background one. So I'm just going to go for this one here, so wax crayon on vellum, and then I'm just going to change the opacity down to around 50% and 10%, and the scale to 50%. So we can just actually just change that in there. And you can have a little look at it, just check that you're happy with it, play around you, and you might want to choose one of the other options. You just want it to have that kind of textury, watercolour-like sort of background, and click OK. Once you've done that, if you open up a new layer, so we can just pop a new layer by clicking on this link here. I'm just going to select the text. I'm using a font called Plane Crash because I wanted something a little bit more texturally. What I did was downloaded that, so if you want to do that, you could use a website like Font. So this is the one that I got mine from. They've got lots of different fonts, so all you do is when you find one that you like is click on download fonts. It will open up a little box like this on your screen. Just double click on it and it will open up the font in a separate window. You can click install font, and then you'll be able to find it in your fonts when you go back into Photoshop. So that's quite handy if you can't quite find the font that you want already in Photoshop. So because this is just a little example, I'm going to use water. If you just hit the D key, it should reset the sorry, not when we're typing. If I just click off of that. If you just hit the D key, you should see just down here that's just changed back to blacks, which is just a quick way to get back to black text. I'm just going to delete that second layer I've accidentally created, and just type water. Obviously you can type whatever word it is that you want to be using for yours. I'm just using water as an example. So I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger as well, so let's go for 100. Okay. Okay, so once you do that, if we go into layer, new layer, so we're just going to call this the paint layer because this is going to be the layer that we'll be painting onto in a second. And now we're going to create our watercolour brush. So if you click onto the brush tool and then select one of these softer brushes, and then we just want to set the size to about 35 pixels, and then open up the brush option so we can do some more here. So we want to go into our brush options here. So what we want to do is go into the texture options, and then I want to pick that same texture that I've got on my background, and then go into the transfer options and change the opacity to just make sure that that's on 100%. and click on the wet edges option so you can start to see these just different marks here. And then if we just close that window down, then we just want to come up to here, make sure that you're on multiply. We want to put the opacity down onto sort of around between sort of 10 and 20%, so I'm going to stick it on 20% for now, and change the flow down to 50%. And that's our watercolour brush sorted. So now you kind of only want to colour the text, so the way that we do that is if you just click back onto the your text layer, I'm just going to use the magic wand tool to quickly click. So if you hold down the shift key and then click across to the next layer, you'll see it's just selecting the black on that. I'm just going to zoom in so I can just get that little section there as well, and zoom out. So you can see all the little dotted lines sort of dashing around the outside. If you click back onto the paint layer and then just remove the little eye here, so now we can just see that space, so we're not seeing the black text as well, and zoom it in and then click back onto our brush tool. This is where you can start to add this sort of watercolour effect with your text. So I'm going to start with just a sort of soft sort of blue. This is the bit that sort of takes a bit of practice. It does take getting used to. There's different techniques. I haven't quite mastered it yet, so sort of try sort of doing a little up and down kind of motion along the top. So I tend to sort of colour in the top of the letter to start with, then maybe sort of select a different colour. If you just click down like this, then you can keep the same sort of palette, as it were, and then do the same sort of motion, so just a little bit of that sort of up and down sort of motion between the letters. That seems to make quite a nice effect. And then I'm just going to go for a sort of green at the bottom. So you can see it's really quite faint, so but that's what gives it that kind of watercolour-y effect. So you could go for something a bit brighter on the next letter maybe, and you could try maybe sort of moving in sort of circular motion, so sort of getting the outsides of the letters move down, or get maybe a green, and sort of just go around in that same sort of motion. So you're sort of just really carefully sort of going around the same way that you sort of would almost if you were doing it by hand. And that's it really. That's pretty much the technique. So I'll just go through and finish it off so we can see some different colour combinations and things. So it's nice if you get that little point there where you're sort of just overlaying, it tends to then just colour the other letters quite nicely. You could also, I suppose, do all of these just exactly the same, which might make it a little bit, it depends what sort of look you're going for. Okay, so once you've done that, if you just deselect your sort of selected area, so I do that by holding Command and D, and then we're sort of left with our nice watercolour-y sort of style piece, and then what we need to do is go back in and just remove our black text layer. And that's it. So that's how you create a kind of watercolour-y effect piece in Photoshop.